A superstar or something like that. I mean, a really big
This is
time.
why I didn't want to do this.
I'm very disappointed.
I don't have to live up to your dreams, okay? I did some things. I even brought them. Look, I wrote novels, okay? Published novels.
Wow, I'm pleased. I am. I'm very proud of you.
I haven't done everything exactly the way you wanted it.
Why not?
You are such a pain.
All right, go, 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 go! Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you, my friends, can watch the stuff you love when you want, where you want, on whatever damn device you choose. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I'm Brian Brushwood, but more importantly, that's Stony Emschwiller, a guy who is pitching his Kickstarter for Later That Same Life, where he wants to put together an interview with himself and his 18-year-old self. At the same time, what was amazing about this is Andrew Main forwarded me the Boing Boing post about this Kickstarter, and then watching it, like halfway through, he holds up a couple of science fiction novels, and I realize, to my amazement, that one of those novels I read while I was in high school and deeply, deeply loved. So at any rate, check out Later That Same Life, Stony Emschwiller. The entire video is amazing, and I'm sure the project will be awesome, and we'll talk about it later.
That's long-term planning. That is, he recorded those questions to himself when he was 18.
Well, yeah, but he also recorded the reactions to himself. He's like, what are all the things me as an asshole 56-year-old is going to say? and then he reacted accordingly to it.
And he's obviously a clever editor. Also joining us today, Mr. Lamar Wilson is back. Welcome back.
Hey.
Woo!
Good to be back. You know, at age 18, all I was thinking about recording I can't say that in the show, but it was, let's just say with the female persuasion. I wasn't thinking about anything 38 years in the future. So
like the
Honestly,
entire
I think
interview.
in like 1986, I recorded a cassette tape of myself sending a message to myself in the future and said, "I think I've met you, honey." And I hadn't.
So like Lamar, your entire interview consisted of like, we did it, right? You and me, we finally did the thing that,
yeah,
and the thing being the woman.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
Yep, that's it.
All right, well, let's do it now. By that, I mean the primary target.
All right.
So it's earnings season for the television networks, which means everyone's questioning them how they're going to earn money. And Peter Kafka at Recode reports that TV execs have been signaling they will stop selling their best stuff to digital services. Netflix, obviously, the big target here, where they're making tons of money off shows that come from companies that make television products. 21st Century Fox CEO James Murdoch said way back in September that they need to change the business rules around that sort of thing. Time Warner CEO Jeff Bewkes, remember Time Warner, not Time Warner Cable, Time Warner CEO Jeff Bewkes, owners of HBO, saying you undercut yourself by having somebody else pay a fraction of the cost and create a better inventory on the various shows you yourself invented. Speaking more about probably TNT and Turner stuff there. Also said they may retain rights longer and delay or forego licensing, trying to give investors a boost, saying, hey, we're going to try to keep this stuff and not give it away. Discovery CEO David Zaslav said it's just not rational that all of us in the content business sold our content to a distributor and have allowed that distributor to gain so much share and offer it without our brands. That particularly talking about Netflix. Many of them may make their shows only available on cable VOD or TV everywhere. This is one of the reasons behind CBS putting Star Trek on CBS All Access to maintain control of that on-demand thing. Meanwhile, Netflix telling shareholders last month, some studios will choose to license their content to SVOD. People like Hulu, Amazon Prime, others may not. So we're prepared for us not to get as much content. And Netflix point out that shows creators and producers are still going to want to make sure their show has been maximizing money. So it's not like they can cut off Netflix, because if I make a show for Time Warner and then I expect to get money on the back end when Time Warner syndicates it out to places, including Netflix. I'm not going to be happy if Time Warner's like, yeah, we're just not selling that because we want to hold on to the rights for it.
Well, okay, so let me. This whole thing actually seems like a really sensible action to me. It seems like in the early days of any kind of new format coming out, yes, you throw out speculative tendrils in that direction with content that isn't making money any other way. So you go ahead and you say yes. Netflix, go ahead and throw this content on, go for it. And it's only after that structure has proven to be a money-making model that you do the sensible thing, which is like, great, we know this makes money. Congratulations. We're glad that you're number one in this. We're going to secure our number two position by, using the only asset we have, which is, we weren't first to market. We don't have dominant market share. So instead, we do have the content. So we're going to hold on to the content and we're going to consolidate and we're going to create our own channel on that stuff. All of this kind of seems by the playbook to me. What do you say, Lamar?
I was thinking about this. It feels backstabby, of course. You're right. I mean, Netflix came in, set up the infrastructure that they did not have, and made them money that they otherwise wouldn't made. And then they figure out the system, and then they want to take it back. And yes, from a business perspective, it makes sense. It just seems like, where at first they were glorifying and praising Netflix for making them money. Now they're saying, F you. We figured it out. We don't need you anymore. And I think that's going to come back to haunt them because people now would just expect Netflix to have those series, even if it's like right before, like Walking Dead, right before the season starts. They, even if it's a day or two, it pops on Netflix. People just expect that to happen. And if AMC is going to hold it into their own app, whatever, that's just going to make people angry.
Sure. So, Tom, tell me from your experience, like as a consumer, not as a brilliant, insightful business person as you normally are.
Well, I can tell that one of you likes headline writers, and one of you is just trying to take all the wind out of their clickbait here, because what's happening is that on the one hand, Brian's right, where these companies are saying, hold on a minute, things have changed. Netflix is making a lot of money here. Maybe we can make more money on this if we hold on to the rights a little bit. Let's investigate that. That's perfectly rational. On the other hand, Lamar's right. It's not rational. In fact, let me quote Discovery CEO David Zaslav again. It's just not rational that all of us in the content business sold our content to a distributor. It seemed rational when you sold it to the distributors named Comcast and Cablevision and others. So you just got to cut off Netflix for spite, and that wouldn't make any sense either. I think as a consumer, as long as the shows that I want to watch are available in a place that I can afford to subscribe to and have control over, I don't care if that's Netflix or Hulu or if Time Warner launches some Turner system that I can get, or if I can buy them a la carte through Vudu or iTunes or Google Play. That doesn't matter. If they cut off things and say, we're only making them available for cable on demand, that would make me angry as a consumer. And I think it would come back to bite them in the end because they would actually reduce the amount of money they could make off of those things because the cable companies aren't rolling in money for those kinds of rights anymore either.
Yeah, I suspect that both parts of this are entirely rational for the content owners. It's rational to take a dead back catalog of stuff and make it available on a speculative, expansion network like Netflix is, and then it's also rational to, once that network has proven itself, to pull back your owner, and reassert your ownership of that stuff. So it's like,
basically what you're saying is when they were throwing stuff at Netflix, they were throwing stuff that was worthless. They're like, we're not going to get any money for this, so we might as well throw it at this Netflix thing. Now that stuff is worth something, so it's worth reassessing if you're getting the best price for it.
Well, and again, like the value of it is only there's no determining like it is worth something or it isn't worth something. All that matters is what do the numbers indicate. Like it was indicated that this back catalog was worthless at the time, so sure, they give it to you because they weren't making any money on at the time. Now they have a proven track record of this being worth something, so it makes sense to pull it back and to figure out some other distribution for them to maximize their earnings on it.
And Curtis B in the chat room points out when you're dealing with Netflix, You get access to dozens of countries at once instead of having to sell it and sell your rights to individual entities in each country like you used to have to in syndication deals.
Oh my gosh,
So in
dude.
some ways, Netflix is still a better deal. And I don't think I definitely don't think Jeff Bukes is saying we're going to cut off Netflix. I think this is all part of maximizing profits. Shareholders are seeing the profits from cable distribution starting to decline, and they want to know where they're going to make that up. And somebody like Time Warner says, well, you know what? We need to start the negotiating battle so that Netflix is going to have to pay a little more to get our stuff because there's a competitive marketplace with Hulu and Amazon and others. And maybe we'll start our own service up for this stuff. Maybe we won't. We will for HBO. HBO Now is that. Maybe for Turner, we won't. Who knows?
Well, maybe these companies can start being realistic. You mentioned their profits. That's after all of their costs. Maybe they need to be realistic and realize that this is the kind of market where you're not going to make the same amount of profits that you used to make before. All their bills are paid. This is extra change that they're sitting around so they can reinvest it somewhere else. I mean, if the money is not there, it's not there. And I just think they're trying to squeeze out, every bit they can to live the same lifestyle they've been living for the last 10, 20 years. And I just think that's going to come back to bite them.
I mean, I agree that is exactly, you have objectively said exactly what it is. I also don't know that I fault them because that's part of the thing. When you invest, $300,000 in a series or whatever, you do it with the expectation that one out of these 10 investments is going to be something that you can squeeze the long tail for as long as you can. And so now that they have these assets and they have this long tail, so to me, it makes sense that they're going to try to squeeze as much as they can. And I don't necessarily begrudge them that.
Well, and this will make you feel better, Lamar. Time Warner networks are going to cut down commercial inventory. They say, look, we're making lots of money on HBO, lots of money on our movies, lots of money on our games, but our Turner revenue has declined. So we're going to reduce our ad load, starting with the younger skewing networks where we're having a harder time keeping people around, networks like True TV. And we're going to go down from 18 to 19 minutes per hour to 10 to 11 minutes per hour. And at the same time, they told investors when we do that, it will have little or no impact on revenue, which means they're not selling those other 8 to 9 minutes per hour.
Right.
So why not cut them out, put more content, make people happier, and possibly keep them around longer, which is pro-consumer. That's doing something and saying, hey, you know what? We're not making the money like Lamar said. Let's figure out how to keep people around because if we have more viewers, then we get more for the ads that we can sell.
Good point.
So, real quick, just to clarify, you're talking about like on the cable distribution of everything, like on the actual cable channel. Well, as opposed to like when you're looking at something like Hulu.
Oh no, we're not talking about Hulu. We're talking about Time Warner's network.
I understand, but are we talking about online or are we talking about on cable?
No, we're talking about Time Warner's networks. So Turner Television.
So we're talking about cable, yes.
I mean,
okay.
If it's on Sling TV, then we're talking about online. But if it's on
your
Comcast service, then we're talking about on cable.
Dial it back, and we'll get to my actual question.
Okay.
When you're talking about online, it's a very simple thing. You press a button, and suddenly the ads are cut in half, and you have half the ads. That's not a problem. But when you are talking about distribution on a real-time cable network, you have a 30-minute block. You only have a 22-minute program. You have to have something to fill in the gaps. So yes, let's say we cut the ads in half. Does that mean we're filling it with what?
More content, maybe.
I mean, but that's just it. You can't.
You're asking a very logistical question.
You cannot fill it with more content.
What do you do with your existing inventory? Some of those shows may have been cut down from larger stuff, like for instance Doctor Who. Now I know this doesn't apply to Time Warner, but Doctor Who is cut down for the American market because of the TV content. So there may be some shows that they can go back and say, hey, let's do a recut where you add in a few more minutes. They may add like post-show rolls with like cool 5-minute bits. Remember, HBO used to do that in between movies back in the early days. It'd be interesting. That's a content question. Like, what do you do to fill that? But going forward, all of your new shows you order with 27 minutes instead of 20 or 24 I guess 25 minutes instead of 22 minutes or whatever. Your live programs you build into blocks that way. So yeah, that is an interesting question. What they'll do with their back catalog.
I mean, and to my point, like the question is they are planning to win back cord cutters by reducing the advertising, but there's no talk about increasing the content. That's my
no.
That's,
They will.
That's my
They will
whole point.
absolutely increase the content. I don't think that's
I
controversial.
don't know.
The new shows, the new orders, will be to fit this new commercial schedule.
I mean, eventually.
And I have experience of this on the other end because the screensavers had to find a couple less minutes in their rundown back when Tech TV increased the commercial breaks for their ongoing shows. Shows and places like True TV, they're always, I mean, all networks are always creating new episodes, whether it's an outside production company or an internal production company. And so those new episodes will fit that new format.
So from my perspective, we created extra content for hacking the system the entire time. We did more content because different demographics, different markets wanted, more or less content. It is an absolute fact. It is guaranteed that the only 3 minutes that were cut from every episode were the worst or the least popular or the least desirable 3 minutes per episode. My question to you guys is adding the least desirable 3 minutes gonna flip the switch for them?
I think that's an unfair question because the majority of the content that you're going to be putting on there is going to be new. That's especially with something like True TV. That's what's going to keep people coming around, not showing old episodes of things. So I personally don't think that's that big of a concern. What they're looking at is, well, it could either be commercials or content, and if we got content, we'll keep people around.
All right.
More so than commercials. And you may disagree with that.
I just suspect that adding, 3 minutes per episode or whatever, I don't think this is going to really flip a switch in most consumers. I think that most consumers are not cutting the cord because, my guess is that the number of people is zero who pick up the phone and say, Time Warner Cable, I'm quitting because I have only 23 minutes of valuable content and I expect 26. And,
nobody does that. You're right.
Right. So I'm glad we're on the same page.
I also think that reducing the commercial load when you're not making any money off of it and replacing it with content, probably a good idea.
It's a good thing.
Not going to solve all the ills, though. If that's true.
Yeah. No, I guess you make a very compelling point, sir.
You know what we don't do on Cordkillers, though, Brian?
Have commercials?
We never cut our commercial load.
Well, I mean, we have as many commercials as we feel like the audience wants. You know why? Because our audience tells us, because we have 2,048 subscribers over at patreon.com/cordkillers. You guys are the folks that keep us loud, live, and independent. Man, it has been a life-changing journey to be here with you guys and to directly give you the insights and entertainment that we hope you enjoy. If you derive value from our podcast, we hope that you will give us a few shekels to indicate as such. That's patreon.com/cordkillers, and I'll give you a hug next time I see you.
Same here. If you don't think they take shekels, go try and give them some.
Send us an email titled I have shekels to cordkillers@gmail.com.
All right, let's get into some signals intelligence.
Right.
Let's move over to the Netflix side of talking to investors. Earlier this summer, FX CEO John Landgraf made a comment that there was simply too much television. A lot of people started talking about peak television. There's so much to watch. We all sort of agree, there's not enough time to watch all the great things. Well, at the New York Times Deal Book Conference last week, Reed Hastings, CEO of Netflix, said, he's wrong, meaning John Landgraf. There's not nearly enough, referring to television. And he points out consumer spending on entertainment has been growing faster than disposable income for decades. Hastings says we need to go beyond the normal spectrum to get quality. I'm hopeful that over time we can make a great Bollywood show. We can make a great anime show, talking about Netflix. He said TV everywhere is the only thing that scares him because bringing network content to multiple devices is what he's always been most scared of. And the big system has to figure out TV everywhere. And that's what we were just talking about, is them saying we need to figure out how to get control of the content that we distribute and make more money off that. One example of what Netflix is doing is Dino Trucks 5-minute favorites of the kids series Dino Trucks meant to be showed to your kids to get them to go to bed, to say, here's your final fix for the day. It's 5 minutes. The content is tailored to that. So anyway, in general, Netflix talking about we need more TV.
The Dino Trucks thing completely worked on me the other night, so I just wanted to.
You went to bed?
passed out completely.
So Lamar, what's your take on this? You hear somebody saying there's not nearly enough televion. What's your gut reaction?
You know what? I got a strong opinion, but I disagree with him only because I feel like there's too much TV. Matter of fact, I wrote out a list of all the shows I watch over the year, and all of them don't run 12 months. It came out to about 30, 40 shows, and I just said, there's so much more I could be doing with my time. And once you lay it out, it's just a lot of little shows, even if they're 30-minute cartoons or feature lengths, things like Netflix does where you watch all at once. I disagree. It's too much TV out there, and I'm a little bit biased. I'm saying that from the point of view of someone who's also tries to be a gamer, because there's just not enough time in the day. And I try to be a comic book reader because I'm trying to do that now. And an actual reader. So and actually do some work. So it's not enough time in the day for me. Again, that could be biased because we're in media.
I find that where it's like, I'm not playing video games for the past couple months because I've been watching more shows or I've been reading more comics, because there is a finite amount of time. And you could say, well, you guys with your Cordkillers, you get to justify this, but everybody's got a certain amount of time that they can spend on on entertainment. And you can only slice it so many ways.
Yeah.
Right.
So specifically, here's how I think he's actually right, that there isn't enough programming or enough television or whatever. I want picture in your mind a circle representing your attention, right? And picture bronchial tubes like your lungs branching off and filling up the majority of that space, right? You're able to breathe, and that's where everything oxygenates. It lives in this attention sphere, but realize that for as maximal as that fractal like tendrils are, realize that you're not filling all that space in there. So it's like the answer is yes, there's not enough television because there are parts of our attention that we are settling for something that's close enough to what we really want, but not actually what we want. And so if you're able to give someone a Bollywood or an anime or all that stuff, then the answer is you can maximize all of that space. And in that regard, I think he's 100% right, to be honest.
Now, see, I agree with you, but for entirely different reasons.
Okay.
My bronchial tubes are full.
Title of the episode.
Yes, there you go.
So much television oxygen in my lungs. I feel like I don't have a problem like settling, like, well, I guess I'll watch this. I feel like if I'm watching something that's less than optimal, I'm doing it for a reason, not because it's all I have. Like, I know I could fill my days with high quality stuff all the time if I really wanted to. But what I think is true, and why I think Reed Hastings might be right, is there are more great books than I'll ever be able to read in my lifetime. And I don't hear anyone saying, there's just too many good books. People just need to stop writing books because, we don't need any more books.
Right. And that's a fact. And to be honest, the only mistake I would point out is that, yes, you feel like you have all the right television because you are full. Your belly is full of all the great content. But what you don't know is all the stories that might have been told, all the things you might have encountered. Right.
So, I mean, in that case, yeah. And that builds on my book metaphor, which is like, of all the great works of literature that have been done, we could say there's simply too many books, but that would prevent the next Patrick Rothfuss from writing The Name of the Wind. And
exactly.
I would hate that.
Well, and exactly. There's tons of mashups and subdivisions. It's like, why not a techno-noir thriller with a zombie as the case closer? It's like there's still stories yet to be told. Now, granted, there's diminishing returns as far as them being smaller and smaller pockets for them to fill. But I, for one, want all of our great artists to keep going that way.
Yeah, I think one of the most frustrating things for me as a TV viewer, and this happened very recently, and I'll give you an example. The show Minority Report, I saw it on Hulu. And I was, all psyched to watch it. I got into the first episode, and then I went on Wikipedia and saw that they've already canceled the show, low ratings or whatever, or they're going to try to wrap it up in December. The point is that we have limited time as it is, and then we get into these shows that it just end up being crap, and it just makes me not want to watch any more TV because it's I don't know what's good anymore, and that's why I like the idea of a Netflix or this delayed TV thing where you let, because I'm not in a rush to watch anything. I have enough stuff to do. So let the market decide who, if it's good or not. Then I could jump into it. I just hate jumping into stuff new anymore.
Dude, I can totally relate to that for sure.
All right, let's gear up real quick. We got some significant apps.
Ooh,
significant apps.
Significant gear.
Aw, snap.
Now, I'm kicking myself for this first one because there were people in chat saying it while we were doing Cordkillers last week. And we just didn't get it together to mention it in that episode. But Plex is available for the Apple TV for free. You don't even have to pay for a Plex Pass, at least for now. You can just download it, install it on your Apple TV, and Plex along with your favorite hits that you serve legally from your legally owned copies.
All right. Can we talk real quick? Here's how I know that Plex is awesome is because my brother, who has no interest in the stuff we talk about in Cordkillers, calls me out of the blue like, "Hey man, have you heard of Plex? Have you heard the good news? It's like Netflix of all your totally legally, definitely not downloaded on BitTorrent content." And it puts me in a weird paralysis because, of course, here on the show, we're supporting, 100% legal ways to watch it. We're a little bit dicey, even on the likes of VPNs. But Plex seems to have built its empire on, hey, that catalog of content that you have, we don't care where you got it. Here's how to access it easily and share it with other people, which we totally support. But also, I feel like we have to acknowledge probably came from nefarious sources, ?
Yeah, and so, that's why we don't talk about Plex as often as people tell us we should talk about it, because its usefulness is questionable if you're following the law. And I don't mean that to be questionable, like it's a piece of crap. I just mean I haven't seen anyone say, you can buy all your Vudu and iTunes videos, put them on Plex. If I could do that, I would be talking about Plex all the time, but DRM prevents that.
Yeah.
So it's a DRM problem, not a Plex problem.
Yeah. So that's the weird part about Plex. Now, having said that, all of our interactions with Plex have been 100% stellar. If you have a legal library of legally acquired content, it's among the best of breed. It's just that if you're going to put a number to it, Tom, or Lamar, what would you say the number of 100% legal content being used by Plex is these days?
2%.
2%. You got it.
And they know it.
Sure. If you're a 2%er.
But they don't induce it. They don't encourage it. They just know. And
it's no more wrong than FTP is or MP3 or any of those other things. It's like it's
right.
I don't know. It's a reality.
The software itself, should. I have used it, and I have used it for legal videos. That legally recorded CNET Live episode that I legally owned because I was in it. I don't know. Hey, Apple TV also added charts and categories. We're talking about the third parties that were pulling them out. Well, now no more mystery. You can go to Apple TV, just log in and see them. And Sling TV now works with Chromecast. So you can press the little cast button on your Sling TV app on your iOS or Android device and sling it right over to your Chromecast. And like they did with the Fire TV, you can now prepay for 3 months of Sling TV and get a free new Chromecast. Or if you're already a Chromecast owner and not already a Sling TV subscriber, you can get a free 2-month trial.
By the way, Sling TV has been like my trump card in any kind of discussions with people who are on the ethical fringes of the cord cutting revolution.
Now, here's where I bring it back away from the idealistic world that we sometimes will tend to assume exists in the cord cutting world.
Sure.
past 3 weeks, I've been watching The Walking Dead. We've been watching it live because AMC doesn't allow any on-demand within the same evening, and we always want to watch it on Sunday night. So PlayStation Vue does allow you to do a cloud DVR, and I've talked about my problems with that the last 2 weeks. So this week, we just turned it on Sling TV at 6. We're going to watch AMC. Yeah, we can't pause or rewind, whatever. We'll just sit down and watch it. We rarely get up in the middle of it anyway. And of course, Sling TV puked on it as soon as 6 o'clock came around. I had to close the app and restart it, and then it was fine. But it was, you could tell, it's like when Sling TV noted that it was a new program, it suddenly went loading and then went, oh, error. And I had to close out and missed the first couple minutes.
See, that's the problem with Sling TV's whole system is that if you are going to put people in the position of saying, okay, I get it, I'm willing to accept appointment viewing just like the old days, if you're going to say that's the price of admission to get into this brave new world for only $20 a month, you have to be willing to commit to delivering content on time. You can't have everybody gathered around the television and then not.
Well, now, wait a minute. Now, HGTV is excellent, 24 hours a day.
And it's on-demand stuff too.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Good point, Lamar.
It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break. And let me tell you, folks, there are things in this world that amaze me. And this week it was like seeing Brian Brushwood everywhere. I saw images of a holocron in Clone Wars when I was watching it. I saw these beautiful boxes on the BlizzCon floor related to Blizzard games. And I watched an episode of Doctor Who that had 2 boxes that were created as a defense mechanism against the Zygons. And every time I saw every one of those, Brian, I was like, it's the Arcana box. They're like, just not as cool. You guys need to look at the Arcana box.
I gotta tell you, man, the Arcana box has been like one of the most joyful things we've ever created. You're looking right now at an image of a box. It's got 3 dials on it. We do not give you the password to it. Inside this haunting Lovecraftian artifact is 2 decks of cards, the Arcana Omega and Arcana Alpha, and plus a numbered challenge coin that will indicate that you had the skills to open this box, whether you solve it by figuring out what the password is, whether you solve it by actually cracking the lock, whether you solve it by taking an axe to it and smashing it in half. We don't care whether you're a thief, whether you're a wizard, whether you're a barbarian. We want you to get into the stuff inside, and that's available right now at scamstuff.com. I am shocked and thrilled and amazed by the overwhelmingly positive response we've gotten to this. We are about to ship these out this upcoming week. Right now, all of the elements are in Florida. If you want to give a gift to somebody who's maybe a Scam School fan or just loves puzzles that need to be solved, now's the time to buy because I think next week we're going to shut down the pre-sales on this thing because we don't know that we'll have them available in time for Christmas.
Get in there quick, people. Get in there quick.
You make the coolest stuff.
Oh, what? Sorry?
I was say you all make the coolest stuff over there. It's just yeah,
they do.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
amazing.
man.
Let's take a look at the front lines.
Front lines.
I mean, let's not take a look. Let's stride right across them and start battle. Disney announced a deal bringing ESPN, the Disney Channel, ABC, and ABC Family to the PlayStation Vue service. All ESPN-related channels will be included, at least in some tier of the package, and local ABC affiliates may opt in as well for live programming, but ABC primetime programming will be included in some way anyway. No word on whether or if it will be an increase in the $50 a month base price or how it will all shake out. But PlayStation Vue, the first of these types of internet services to get all 4 major networks in the U.S.
Dude, I don't care how much it is. All I love is seeing everybody play ball. Everybody recognizing that, hey, we have a giant pie. We've all staked out our claims in this pie. Now let's make everything available to everyone without having to switch freaking devices or subscriptions for every 5 seconds. What do you say, Lamar?
I still want them to have authenticated apps, whether it's Sling TV or this service where I can watch stuff on demand. If they allow that to happen, I'm in.
Yeah, PlayStation Vue, you can do it on the iPad, but then not everything you can get on the actual game console is available for view on the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Hulu subscribers on tiers that still see ads can choose to have an interactive ad that gets rid of ad breaks in exchange for interacting with the 30-second ads. The ad comes at the beginning but can be chosen during the first ad break or when the user presses pause. These engagement ads are more expensive than traditional ads and will only be available on current season shows when an advertiser has bought one. They're launching on the web and on mobile, but it will eventually be on all Hulu apps. I don't know about you guys, but I am so 100% on board with this. If I have to choose between just, answering a question, do you understand what the unique selling proposition of degree antiperspirant is? Yes, I do. I can show that. So you don't need to tell me again. That would be bonus to me.
I remember the earliest days of Hulu watching Pushing Daisies episodes to catch up and having like a car ad that said, if you'll answer a couple of questions, you won't have to have ads. So this has been around. I guess Fox just bought a company, and so they're bringing it back.
Yeah. What about you, Lamar? You in or you out?
I upgraded to the $12 a month plan, so I don't care.
I see Mr. 1%. Finally, the truth comes out.
Lamar doesn't see ads because he pays not to see them.
That's right.
Our emailer from last week was right. Vice and A&E announced they will launch the channel Viceland in February 2016 in the U.S. Spike Jonze oversees the content. Some of the shows will include Gaycation with Ellen Page, Portraits with Mark Maron, as well as versions of Vice's YouTube shows. There will be no waiting period between web and TV for shows either. So if you watch a show on the web, it won't be like, you got to watch it on Viceland first and then wait a few weeks. And the channel will appear wherever H2 is carried, although cable companies can sometimes drop these channels if they want.
Yeah, man. It's not a black and white deal. It seems like, everyone's going to get a different interpretation of this. But meanwhile, for the record, I am thrilled with the content I've seen from Vice. It's really impressed me. Lamar, do you have an opinion about Vice one way or the other?
We have too much TV. Stop making new channels. Too much.
We don't need boots on the ground reports from Chechnya. We have too much television as it is. Fair enough.
Annoying.
News On has launched offering local news for subscribers on iOS, Android, and Roku. Backed by TV stations, it'll offer local news coverage from 118 stations in 90 markets, which News On says is about 75% of the United States. I'm not good at math, so I don't know how many stations there are in the United States.
Well, and really, this is all about creating a service so that local channels can get their news to cord cutters, and that is an area of panic for some local stations. So.
Well, and not without reason. It's like there is a place for local news because especially here in Austin, it's been more apparent as we've had sporadic flooding and tornado alerts and all this stuff. There's been a number of times that I've turned on old-fashioned over-the-air antennas just because I want to know is that tornado going to land on my house, which it almost did.
Yeah, and having these kinds of streams, especially for weather-related events, is always interesting. I remember during some of the hurricanes out east, just turning on Roku and finding the local channels sometimes had their own apps. And even Roku was doing a thing where they would rotate through different local channels, providing content. DirecTV was doing the same thing. So yeah, there definitely is still a need for this in those situations. On the other hand, man, sometimes I feel like local news is removing intelligence from my brain if I catch myself
Where
watching.
else are you going to find about the cat that got a transplant and survived, and he's in your town?
That's why it shouldn't be subscriptions. I don't want to pay for that. I like using the ABC 7 News app that's here in LA, and I can just get the live stream free. That to me is a good value.
What about this? What about a concierge service that is $7 a month, and it genuinely, let's say a Siri-like artificial intelligence it knows everything about you. It knows whether you have cats or dogs. It knows whether you're married or not. And it just has a feed of like stuff it is 90% certain will be super important to you. I would pay for that in a heartbeat, man.
I can't remember which app was promising to do that we've covered before.
I know.
But we definitely have covered
Haystack
people who want
pretty
to
good.
do exactly that. They're just not as sophisticated as you're describing. Of course.
Exactly. I guess what I'm saying is that's
Viewster. Is that one?
That's the holy grail, is once you cross that threshold and it becomes actually useful, I will pay that without thinking about it.
Haystack. Music service Tidal will now offer some original television shows. This is that Jay-Z music service. No Small Talk is a half-hour stand-up comedy show comprised of 5 episodes hosted by Sifa Sounds, which premiered November 3rd, and the second season of the YouTube series Money and Violence, which is about a group of criminals living in Brooklyn, created by and starring Moises Verneau. That one is on Tidal for a week exclusive before coming to YouTube.
Man, I really don't know anything about this, so I'm going to turn it over to Lamar.
Well, you don't have to know much. It's a big
So you
music
assume
service.
I know about
Oh,
it.
go! I see. Wait, you think I'm profiling you because you think I'm profiling? Ah! Don't judge me.
I couldn't help myself on that one.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't know anything about Tidal either.
Tidal's a music service. They launched with the idea that you would be helping artists more directly because artists are investors in it, and like YouTube is now combining its music service with video, like Google Music is now adding podcasts. Everybody's trying to figure out other ways to get you to pick their music service over another. So original TV shows in Tidal's case.
I just love the idea that Lamar's over like, oh, you think I know just because I'm a YouTuber? Why would you profile me like that? HBO announced that Jon Stewart has signed a 4-year production deal to focus on short-form digital content meant for HBO Go and HBO Now, with the possibility of making other film and TV programs. Stewart's job will be to, quote, view current events through his unique prism. Sounds like a pretty rad gig to me.
I didn't know he had his own prism. Just leave the colors on the right side of the spectrum off.
Guys, if we just stole that prism, we could put
the
anything
world.
through it. Yeah. No, this is great. I gotta wonder how much of this was what's the name of the guy who does Last Week Tonight?
John Oliver.
John Oliver. Yeah, I got to imagine there was a secret conversation with John Oliver where he's like, yeah, it's pretty sweet over at HBO. Why don't you come on over? Join us.
Yeah, John Oliver's like, I only work once a week. And Jon Stewart's like, well, I can trump that. I'll only work 5 minutes at a time.
And he's like, oh, busted. And then
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart shows
We were
up.
all
Is like,
wondering
I'll
what
work
Jon
30
Stewart was going to
seconds.
do. I think a lot of us thought maybe he would go like direct to the internet with his own system or something like that. But now we know he's going HBO Now. And HBO has said that this content will appear on the linear channel on cable as well, but it's really designed and meant to be viewed on the apps and on the internet.
Yeah.
Right on.
I thought he was going to retire. Like he's been 20 years at Comedy Central, something like that. I just assumed he would just
Late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, holy cow. Yeah, no, it is coming up on 20 years. I don't know. It's like I get the impression that folks who are at the level of a Jerry Seinfeld or a Jon Stewart aren't really doing it for the money at some point, right? Like at some point, just shoveling bucketfuls of cash in their face doesn't work anymore, and instead, it's about having a voice and being relevant
And doing something fun. You
yeah.
know, I think
that's a good point. Yeah.
he said something in his press release about how like daily 22 minutes a night almost killed him. And so this just seemed much more appealing.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
All right, let's see what's under surveillance.
You insist, sir.
This is the segment about stuff you can watch, and Netflix announced a 10-part series called Making a Murderer. Serial much? Directed by Laura Ricciardi and Moira Demos, about Stephen Avery, who served 18 years for a crime that DNA evidence later indicated he had not committed, and then he became a suspect in a new murder case. A 2-episode preview comes out Friday, November 13th at Doc NYC Film Festival, and the full series arrives on Netflix December 18th.
Man, am I the only one who's like highly uncomfortable with some would put it generously as exposing the truth about real life crimes. Another part of me feels like this is kind of sensationalizing real tragic circumstances for other people and making a buck off of it.
I felt the same way. Now I'm gonna say, when I heard the title of How to Get Away with Murder on ABC, I thought the exact same thing. Have not seen the show. Maybe it's not like this. Maybe it's not showing you step by steps on how to get away with it. But the title sure made me cringe and not really want to get into it because of that
drama.
Yeah, I'm not a true crime fan, and How to Get, like as you point out, How to Get Away with Murder is drama. This is true crime, and I don't hate it. I'm not against true crime. I've even read a few true crime books that I found very intriguing, but it's just not my thing. But a lot of people, this is their thing. This is what they're into.
Well, regardless, as far as Netflix goes, I think it is a smart move. I mean, if there's a niche and it needs to be filled, it's another pocket of the giant lungs of our attention.
On Friday at BlizzCon, Blizzard released the new trailer for the Duncan Jones-directed Warcraft movie coming out in June 2016. Either of you guys see that?
Yeah,
saw
I
it
did.
at BlizzCon.
Lamar, did you watch it?
I watched the keynote, but did they have this in there? Because I don't remember seeing this now.
Oh.
Yeah, they played it on the keynote. Was it
Okay.
not, did they not broadcast it on DirecTV?
I don't remember seeing this trailer at all.
It didn't make an impression on you then.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
So, for those of you who don't know, it looks very, very Lords of the Ring-y. And to be honest, that was kind of a bummer for me because one thing that has made the Warcraft universe throughout every single iteration of their games, everything Blizzard touches has a little bit of a kiss of this tongue-in-cheek humor about it. And there was zero of that in this trailer. And in fact, that's part of the reason anything negative said about the movie, I believe, is because this thing looks like a Me Too Lord of the Rings knockoff, which actually gives me faith because it makes me think that they're hiding all of the humor because they're instead giving what all of everybody who is a fan of Warcraft is already in. So instead, they're courting the outside people by being boring and looking epic-y or whatever.
Yeah, those are the canaries in the coal mine, right? This is based on orcs and humans. It's going to be very unrelated to playing World of Warcraft. You don't have to have ever played any game to understand it. And I think that's what they're trying to convey is this is an epic story of humans and orcs in a land of fantasy. And it's going to look very Lord of the Ringsy because the people who created the Warcraft universe, Chris Metzen and all of them, are huge Lord of the Rings fans. So that's going to come through. But that is a really interesting impression because I looked at it as somebody who's played Warcraft and said, wow, chills. I'm seeing things of the game turned into reality with a different story and everything I know. But it was fantastic. A lot of people I know picked on the CG a little bit too, though.
It does look a little bit rubbery, but Warcraft has always been a rubbery universe, so I don't mind that. I kind of wish it would just wear it on its sleeve a little bit more. And to be honest, everything I'm saying is underlined by the fact that I am a tremendous believer in Duncan Jones as a director. Everything he's directed, I've enjoyed. So I gotta feel if what we're seeing looks like it's pretending to be something else. That's all part of a master plan to rope everybody in.
Job's done. A new international trailer and a new TV trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens have arrived. In both of them, you get a few extra bits from the movie, but I don't want to say too much for the people who are staying away from trailers.
Dude, I watched each of these once and only once. And in fact, I went on the Star Wars Report yesterday with Riley Blanton, and as part of the segment, we watched them again, and I was like, that'll be the last time I look at either of these going into the movie, because to be honest, at this point, I want to wrap my own Christmas present. I'm super excited about it, and I don't want to think too hard about it, although there is one moment, and this is not spoilery, that we in the television trailer, we see this moment of the Millennium Falcon blasting through some evergreen trees in a snow-like environment, and it just looks super dope. I'm so stoked about the set pieces.
What if that's the key plot of the movie? How dare you?
I ruined it! I ruined it! You're like,
ruined the
these
whole movie.
trees, they don't go dormant every winter. Ah!
I have watched both many times and combed over them looking for clues. And there's not much, but what's there is very intriguing. Getting to hear a little more dialogue, seeing a few more pictures of things. And J.J. Abrams has a great interview in Wired today. One of the things they asked him about was, how did you decide what to let people know about and what not, especially not just considering trailers, but toys that say things and all of that. And he talks he talks a bit of length about how they were worried about that. And they didn't want to be arrogant bastards who didn't say anything. They're like, that would be unfair and we'd look like jerks. because people want to see a little bit of a teaser. They want to see a little bit of something. But how do you do it in a way that keeps those Christmas presents wrapped in a way that you don't have to try because they just stay secret? And obviously, there's lots of that kind of thing going on as well.
And you could kind of tell there's a dividing line. Certainly, characters are fair game. They're very free about talking about the characters involved in this movie. Certainly, set pieces and locations are fair game. They do all of that stuff. But plot points, they've been very, very coy about. And I think it's the right idea. It's like, it's fine to buy the action figure for Kylo Ren not having any idea who he is or what he does.
All right. Reddit's first 6-episode documentary series, Cyborg Nation, is debuting on Wired. Wired and Reddit both owned by Condé Nast, so that's kind of the partnership there. They have plans to bring it to Reddit's upvoted website as well, though why it didn't premiere there, I don't know. But it's an interesting and professionally done looking documentary series.
So what's the overall take of Cyborg Nation if they were going to put it in a 10-second pitch?
They're talking about...
I'm asking you to synthesize something that you haven't watched.
You're talking about the one sentence that I didn't put into the.
That's
to
fine.
The
That's fine.
that I now have to go look up.
I assume from what I've read that it's basically about how
shows how researchers and regular humans use technology to improve their lives and work.
Okay, perfect. So it's how we're all Borg essentially. From our contact lenses to our hearing aids to our smartphones to our wristwatches.
Seems like it, yeah.
Right on.
Cool. The Expanse, a sci-fi TV series based on the books by James S.A. Corey, will debut its first episode on Monday, November 23rd. Not on television, on Hulu, Amazon, Google Play, Vudu, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, and a few more places, including the game consoles. The series then will have a 2-night premiere on Sci-Fi Network starting December 14th. And Sci-Fi has partnered with Twitch, Wikia, IGN, IMDb, Goodreads, Crave Online, and Roku to host the series premiere with original custom content.
Do you think this is a case where it's like an emperor in no clothes, where it's like everybody's like, oh, well, since, hey, nobody cares about digital content, right? So we'll just, preview it in all these digital places because we're all cool, right? We don't care about digital. It's fine for us to throw it away for free. And then meanwhile, secretly, it's like, we all know that digital is where it's happening and that's where everybody's going to actually watch this thing.
Yeah, so they're only putting the first episode digitally, and then you still got to go to cable to watch it on Sci-Fi, right? Because Sci-Fi's app doesn't do live full shows at all.
Correct, but also,
Okay.
in the world of television, pretty much you live or die based on how everything goes on the first episode. Because it's like let's say if you do poorly on your premiere, then all they do is they shuffle it off to the side. They give it an increasingly worse time slot, and it eventually goes away. This all seems like kind of an opening salvo to that initial launch.
Just seems smart to me. I mean, you have a very popular book with a highly anticipated series in a certain segment, and you're saying we need to get this episode in front of as many people as possible so they will want to watch the rest. And whether that means watching them on Sci-Fi and like subscribing to cable or PlayStation View to get it, or whether that means buying them with a season pass on iTunes, which that is the other way to get it from Sci-Fi. What it looks like to me is they're fine with that. They're saying we just want to put it in front of as many eyeballs as possible on that premiere episode because we're not wrapped up in one way or the other. We just want to make sure people see it and then direct them where they can watch it.
Fair enough.
Yep.
What you been watching there, Lamar Wilson? I know you watch some television.
I watch some TV. So I've caught up on Arrow, Flash. I'm really loving Supergirl. I can't wait for tonight. Also, Bryce, I want to thank you. I checked out Difficult People on Hulu. I remember you recommended that.
Yeah.
I watched it straight through. It was that
so
good.
It's really good.
It was that. Yeah, it was amazing.
Glad you liked it.
Yeah. Blackish. 2 movies I finally saw this weekend. I saw Inside Out for the first time like 2-3 days ago. May have cried at the end. I won't spoil it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened.
That's good. We're all wondering whether or not you cried at the end of it. Thanks for spoiling that for us.
And Tomorrowland, I really enjoyed it. It definitely had a political message to it, but I really enjoyed the performance of your little girl was amazing. George Clooney was I mean, everybody acted their butt off in that movie.
Did
really
you pick
enjoyed
up
it.
the same Terminator references that I thought I saw in there? Like there's this moment like the punching through the window, and then the little girl saying "Come with me if you want to live" and all this stuff. Like all of
You know,
that.
I didn't catch that, and it's funny because I just watched Terminator Genesis last week, and I don't want to spoil. If anybody hasn't seen it, I won't spoil it. But it's one of those
trailer
references,
spoils it if
and
you've
I
seen
was
the
like,
trailer.
oh, he does. Okay, I was
No,
like,
okay.
oh, dude, really? Like he has to say it, I guess. It's just part. No, I didn't catch that in the movie. Maybe I watched that again.
Yeah, no, especially also like a car races off and the robot girl, spoiler alert, she's a robot, comes running around and is doing the same kind of like T-1000 fast run behind the car and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of the same things as you, Lamar. Arrow and Flash and Supergirl. Although our Supergirl episode last week did not come through on the DVR over the air very well. CBS just had a weird broadcast day for some reason. CBS usually comes in fine. So I had to set the PlayStation View DVR to catch it, and we'll catch up on that tonight. So I only know half of that episode, and why or why not you might be excited. But I am liking it, and I'm loving Arrow and Flash. I think they're both killing it.
Yeah, I bought a Supergirl on Amazon because I had some Amazon credit. So I actually get it like at midnight tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll watch it that way. So no commercials.
Brian, what you been watching?
Hey man, dude, I watched the first 2 episodes of The Walking Dead. Spoiler alert, I loved them. We'll talk about it more in spoiler in time. Also watched the latest episode of Fargo, The Leftovers. I couldn't stop myself. I watched both of the last episodes of The Shield, and I went back and watched the entire first 2 seasons of Rick and Morty again because it started off innocently enough. Yeah, you ever get this idea that it's like there's a community aspect to watching stuff? So it's like, for some reason, I enjoyed Rick and Morty so much more sharing it with my brother who's up in Dallas, and I opened up a little Skype window, and neither of us were looking at each other, but just having each other watched a synced up experience was incredibly joyful to me. And it's like
pretty cool.
watching him discover Rick and Morty for the first time was a true delight. It was amazing.
Hey, remember
fantastic.
when Xbox used to do that for Netflix? They had that synced up experience where you could watch with a friend.
Yeah.
And they took that away, and I thought it was the worst decision ever. I missed that camaraderie.
Absolutely.
Now, in this world of peak television, ladies and gentlemen, there is way
Too much television.
television.
Too much television.
Television's
Too much.
coming down the road. It's coming at you. You don't know when it's going to show up, and that's why it's important to have someone on the lookout. And thankfully, we have Bryce.
Hey guys. Next week, everybody knows is a big week for comedies on Netflix. But this past week, a new comedy series premiered called Master of None. This is a 10-part half-hour show starring Aziz Ansari. The premise is that he's a 30-something-year-old TV commercial actor who's trying to make it in the entertainment industry while also having a relationship or figuring out what he wants out of a relationship. It's a really beautiful show. Is like the most the first thing that you see from it in just how gorgeous every single shot is. But for my taste, I thought it was really kind of sterile as far as the comedy goes. And it has a lot of it makes a lot of true and very enthusiastic social commentaries about race and respecting parents and all these things. But I was surprised at how kind of the balance of humor was.
By sterile, do you mean like everything was overly planned? Like you could tell that there was a clear, and then comes the funny part.
It's very to me, it was very directed on the plot. It's 27 minutes of plot,
right?
Which is just I didn't connect with that, but I talked to a lot of people on Twitter who said that they found their own footing with it, and the co-hosts or the co-stars in it are all really funny, as well as Aziz Ansari. So I think if you should give it a couple of episodes and try it out, because it does make some really good points, and people like it.
Well,
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
And keep in mind, like I recently sort of went face to face with I've loved Mr. Show with Bob and David, but seeing those recent sketches just reminded me of how kind of old school formulaic, the plot was on that stuff. So
And
it's like if I don't know,
I
it'll be
think
interesting to see that without the nostalgia aspect.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's a similar thing with Master of None where it's edited kind of slowly. The everybody in the show seems to be like a good improviser, and so the scenes are very
Languid.
Yeah, the cuts are they're very pure cuts of the takes. I guess to preserve the humor, but it's not snappy. It's not snappy. But maybe you shouldn't be expecting that, I think also.
Interesting.
All right. Well, we have got lots of dispatches. They're from the front, and they're almost all about Star Trek.
What?
I'm going to summarize these, Brian.
Yeah, no, they were all really long. It was a weird batch of emails this week. I threw them all in there, and I'm glad. Especially since we're short on time here.
Paul says he'll subscribe once the season is over and binge watch. Also, so he only has to pay for 1 month of CBS All Access. Tom Mango says he'll subscribe for at least 2 seasons as a way to show support for Star Trek, because all Star Treks take a couple of seasons to get going. We got another email from someone. Oh, this one's also from Paul, a different Paul, who says putting a show behind a paywall is a huge mistake. There aren't enough fans for it to succeed. And then finally, Abry says Star Wars success will depend on, or I'm sorry, Star Trek's success will depend on whether Star Wars makes people feel good. He says if people are riding that high, they might ride it right into paying for Star Trek. But if they're all disappointed, they may be like, oh, screw it, I'm not paying for another disappointment.
Dude, he also mentions that he's excited about Childhood's End, the Arthur C. Clarke series being made into a television show. I cannot wait. Super excited about that as well. Matt says, hi, guys. I'll put my vote in for not reading Preacher. I read it, and while I didn't dislike it, it was hardly my favorite book, not anywhere near my top 10 or even my top 20. It feels oddly dated. When I read it, I assumed it was made in the 80s because of the art style, but was surprised to find out that it came out from 95 to 2000. I guess my other problem is that it's a Garth Ennis book, and while I don't mind violence, he seems to relish in it and write for it. He seems to like the shock value. Anyway, there's more I could say, but it's not really worth it. I say skip it and read something by Brian K. Vaughan instead. Can't ever go wrong with that. I'll vouch for that. I've read Y the Last Man. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, I just finished Y the Last Man, which was fantastic, and I guess Saga is amazing as well.
Dude, as a matter of fact, Saga was one of those. I don't know how I got on their publicity email list, but they sent me the first 2 episodes in PDF format, and I fell in love with it instantly. It was fantastic.
Lamar Wilson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I like I said, I love this show. Look forward to it whenever it pops up on my YouTube feed every Monday. And I enjoy you all's perspective on all the internets.
Well, I love taking a look at youtube.com/Lamar Wilson because you've got some fun stuff over there, and you always make me laugh.
Thank you. I saw that you watched my unboxing of the Apple TV on the Apple TV that you unboxed.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I actually did my unboxing, and then while I was uploading it, I watched your unboxing.
Apple TVception.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun, and you did a much better job than I did because I just did. You've got like the setup for that. I got to get that going on.
Oh, you'll get it. That's what that Patreon money's for, man. Come on, get you a set.
So go check it out, youtube.com/Lamar Wilson. Subscribe. And that's it for us. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Brian, job's done.
Job's done.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.